Hello, I'm Barbara Lucas, and welcome to the Green Room, a collaboration between Washtenaw County and Ann Arbor's Community Television Network. Doug Reith is the resource coordinator for the Washtenaw County Conservation District. He's here to talk about some exciting opportunities for how our community can help with the Conservation District's goal of conserving our area's natural resources. Doug, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you, Barbara. I'm really glad to be here and represent the Washtenaw County Conservation District.
Yeah, I hear there's about 3,000 conservation districts across the country, almost one for each county. So why do we need them to help us when humans impact nature? Why can't we just let nature, heal itself, take its course?
Yeah, well, the human impact on our natural resources has been significant. And the conservation districts came out of the 1930s response to the Dust Bowls, when farmers were tilling and working land so much that they worked it right into dust. And the conservation districts were created in 1948 in order to have local efforts, local management of farmland and natural resources to help prevent this kind of ecological devastation and conserve our natural resources. And furthermore, I think that conservation districts now provide the infrastructure to be local, on the ground organizations to promote adaptability and resilience to the climate change crisis that we're now facing as well.
Mm-hmm. Your website's washtenawcd.org, is that right?
Yep.
Okay, and under the resources tab, there's a lot of things that you coordinate, and we're not going to be able to get to all of them today, but we do especially want to talk about the Native Tree and Plant Expo. Am I saying that right?
So we have a tree and shrub sale,
Okay.
and then an additional event is the Native Plant Expo and Marketplace.
Okay.
And both the tree and shrub sale and the Native Plant Expo have pre-sales on our online store that are currently open.
Okay, great. And I guess the tree and shrub sale, you have to put in your order earlier because you have to plant your trees earlier, pick them up earlier, right?
Yeah, and so the tree and shrub sale has the deadline of March 19th. The pickup date for the trees and shrubs from that sale is April 23rd and 24th.
Okay.
We'll be at the Farm Council grounds.
Okay.
And then the Native Plant Expo is on June 5th. And that will be an expo and marketplace, kind of like a farmer's market, but with vendors and contractors and organizations providing services around native plants, as well as the distribution pickup of any of our pre-orders of native plants.
Okay. I guess people have to get a ticket on your website for reasons of social distancing. Is that right?
Yeah, and so with COVID, we really want to keep our customers and vendors and volunteers safe.
Mm-hmm.
And so with that, we have limited capacity for our Native Plant Expo and Marketplace. And so the tickets are free online. You need to go to store.washtenawcd.org
Okay.
in order to reserve a ticket for a particular time slot.
Mm-hmm. So about how many different tree and shrub species will you be selling?
So the Washtenaw County Conservation District has been doing a tree and shrub sale since 1951. And through those distributions, they've distributed over 7.1 million trees and shrubs. The Native Plant Expo is more recent, the last few years. But between the two, we offer many different types of plants, including 4 different sedges, 12 different grasses, 70 wildflowers, and 47 trees and shrubs. In addition to those, we have some planting aids and some rain barrels and composters that are offered through the online store.
Great. And are they all native plants?
Not everything we offer is native. There's some of our spruces, trees that are really great for windbreaks and are better adapted to be deer resistant. Some of those are introduced species. But for the most part, most of what we offer is native plants on the tree and shrub sale. The native plant sale is almost entirely native native plants and mostly Michigan genotypes.
Okay. And what's the advantage of native over non-native?
Yeah, so native plants, we define that as plants that were here before European colonization in the 1700s. And so these plants have been here for many millennia and have really adapted to the particular geography and climate and habitats, natural communities in the area. So they are resilient and support a lot of the wildlife and ecological services that sustain life around our county and natural areas.
Mhm. One reason why the invasives aren't as welcomed because they push out the natives, right?
Yeah, and so what we consider invasive plants are ones that were introduced through human means. Oftentimes they're brought as food or ornamental species or even for hedgerows. An
Okay.
example of this is the precursor to the Natural Resource Conservation Service had promoted autumn olive as a way to fix nitrogen in farm fields. But this plant, a lot of these invasives are brought over, but don't have the same diseases or pests here. And so they thrive and are much more opportunistic. And so we see autumn olive throughout old fields and in woodlands really taking over. And like you said, shading out other plants, taking over those niches that some of our native plants need to thrive.
Mhm. So on your website, it's really a great website. I got really excited looking through it. There's all these wonderful
Thank you.
filters, for instance, length of roots or deep rooted. And at first I was like, why would you want? And then I thought about my yard where there's clay and it's really hard to get through. Do you think that some of your longer rooted plants might help break that up?
Yeah, potentially. I know the Ann Arbor area has a lot of really heavy clay soils. And so, like you mentioned, our store website does have different filters that you can explore these characteristics and see which plants do well in clay or loam or sandy soils.
Mhm.
And yeah, so it's a great tool if you know what soil type you have to find plants that are gonna really thrive in the location.
Mhm. I do know that through planting native plants in my yard, they're extremely hardy. For instance, I have a butterfly weed that I thought has died over and over again. Like I'll get a caterpillar larva that'll just decimate it and there'll be nothing left, or I'll accidentally put a landscaping paver over one of them. And
Oh,
next thing I knew, it was growing up from the side and it's wonderful. And apparently, one of your filters is for butterflies. And apparently that is a really great plant for the host for butterfly larvae. And a lot of different butterflies drink the nectar from the flowers.
in Washtenaw County, over 40% of land is private urban residence. And so there's a lot of opportunity for conservation practices to happen in and around backyards. Another advantage of butterfly milkweed is that it is very drought tolerant. You often see the bright orange flowers in sandy hillsides,
Mhm.
and it does very well in those sandy soils. So if you have sandier soil or a place that doesn't have a lot of moisture, it could be a really good option. Like you said, it's very resilient.
Mhm. And one thing I love about the drought resistant ones is when I go on vacation, I don't need to, hire somebody to come water, which is wonderful.
Yeah. Yeah. And the
Yeah,
other end of that spectrum is moisture conditions. If you have water pooling up on your property, that's a great opportunity to put a rain garden in. And we do have filters on the site to help you choose plants for rain gardens that can be really well adapted to more moist situations. And that can be super useful for, especially in the urban area, to divert runoff from impermeable surfaces such as roofs or driveways and help recharge and filter that water through the ground instead of into our drain systems.
I hear you're going through the Master Rain Garden program, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And this is a program put on by the Washtenaw County Water Resource Commission.
Okay.
The Rain Garden program is a 5-week program that It teaches you everything you need to know about installing a rain garden in your own residence. And it's also a community group that will help support you and give you feedback in order to do so.
That's great. And the Expo has kits. I noticed you have a lot of different collections, and one of them is a rain garden kit, which is wonderful. Gives you a whole bunch of different plants.
Yeah, the rain garden kit is 32 pots in a flat. It's a great selection of variety of plants that will do well in a rain garden. And it's also laid out in a way that if you don't know how to lay out the plants in the rain garden, they're kind of pre-laid out with some suggestions of how to install them together to have a successful rain garden.
You really take a lot of the guesswork out of it, which is wonderful. Yeah, I guess there's kits for, what is it, pollinators, butterflies, all kinds of different things. And
the kits and also our shrub packets are great collections of different plants that are fit for different purposes or different conditions.
another kit that we didn't mention is the one for Shoreline.
The Shoreline Garden Kit is a variety of plants that are well adapted to being on the edge of a wet system and can really provide some extra erosion control to hold that shoreline in place while also providing ecological benefits and natural beauty.
One of the filters that I think is very noteworthy is bloom time.
Oh yeah, this is one that a lot of the gardeners have been really excited. I've received some positive feedback, especially some of the master gardeners and master rain gardeners. People like to have color in their garden throughout the year. And so you can be creative with having flowers that are blooming in the spring, summer, and fall. So you always have some attractive colors. A really popular early blooming plant is a redbud tree. And this tree is great as a smaller tree in an understory. And it's got brilliant pink flowers in the spring. And it's always okay to be a late bloomer. We have lots of goldenrods and asters. And one of my favorites is the blazing star. And these can stay in bloom in September and into October.
Yeah, it really enriches our life to see colors throughout the season. And it also, having early bloomers is good for the pollinators that come out and need food as soon as they come out of their winter hibernation.
Absolutely. And to get that early pollen flow, it's going to support the native insects and birds. I know our red wild columbine is one of the favorites of hummingbirds because of its high sugar content. And it's just a beautiful bloom as well.
And the filters are fun because some of the plants and shrubs have multiple things that they're good for, which was fun to look at. For instance, I have a spice bush and it satisfies a whole bunch of those different filters. It's good in wet areas. It's good in partial shade. It provides, there's some spice bush butterfly that, is it a swallowtail? Let's see, spice bush swallowtail. And I'm excited to see if I get one of those. I also love the fact that it smells wonderful and it has these beautiful red berries. And sometimes I wonder why these things aren't being sold more widely in the nurseries because they're wonderful plants. For instance, again, I've been planting pawpaw, and that's another one on your list that satisfies a lot of different requirements, and it's hardy, and it also has wonderful fruit, wonderful tasting fruit. And is a host for, let's see, I looked this up, the zebra swallowtail butterfly, right?
Yeah, and pawpaws are really becoming more and more common and popular as a natural plant that also provides a really interesting fruit. It's can be tasty to some. I enjoy them personally. These are also popular for people who are involved in permaculture who want to grow plants that are native to a space, but also like the benefit of having some edible food for themselves and for the wildlife. American hazelnut, as well as serviceberry.
Yeah, there's so many different trees that used to feed our wildlife, like the ash, and now we've got the beech bark disease and what is it, butternuts. They're all in great decline in Michigan. And so we need to be planting things like you're selling to help with the wildlife.
Yeah, biodiversity is so important. One analogy I really love to use is that the Earth in space is kind of like an airplane in flight. And every species and habitat that we're losing is like losing a part of that airplane while it's flying. These are animals and plants and systems that are supporting life on our planet. And if we lose too many, things could really collapse. And so it's up to us to recognize this and take action to adapt and have a resilient natural systems on our planet.
Great. Well, the Washtenaw County Conservation District does a lot to support that goal. So we really. All right, so the other thing that we need to talk about today, which is really exciting, is your grant. Do you want to tell us about that?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm very excited about this. It's our school and community grant. While we do sales for a lot of private residents and organizations, we also want to support schools and communities to establish habitats on their properties that for their communities to enjoy and educate themselves about natural spaces and habitats.
All right, so who can apply to this?
Yeah, so we're looking for applicants that are either school organizations or community organizations. The application process is online, and any Washtenaw County residents are eligible. We're looking for organizations that are interested in establishing new wildlife habitat that will be supported and maintained ongoing. We want this to be a successful habitat that will be enjoyed by the community as well as maintained.
And what do they get from you?
They will receive plant materials as well as professional design plan services and a maintenance plan. And then we'll also be helping with the installation of the project. And so it's kind of a full package. If they've got an idea of what they want to put in, we can help finalize and establish their plans and then plant the habitat on their property and hopefully for their community to enjoy.
That's great. That's really exciting. And I guess it's fairly open in terms of what types of applications you would consider.
So this could be anything from, there's a mountain bike organization that's interested that does trail maintenance and removes invasive species from along trails, and they're interested in planting native plants to replace the invasives that they remove.
Yeah, I saw a video online of a mountain biker trying to bike through an area with invasives that were slapping them on the camera. It would be pretty uncomfortable. So do these applicants need to ask for native plants exclusively, or can they be, fruit trees, berry bushes, that kind of thing?
Yeah, so we're open to the applications, including any plants that have been offered through our spring and fall tree and shrub and plant sales. And so that does include some fruit trees and other introduced species that can be useful for different types of habitats.
And come to think of it, the fruit trees and berry bushes are great habitat for pollinators, right? So we need those.
Absolutely, and for a school to have some raspberries is a great way to engage younger people to have something tasty when they go out to check on the habitat.
Yeah. Everybody loves raspberries, yeah.
Yeah.
That's great. Yeah, and those things will bloom early in the spring, so the kids will be able to see it before school gets out. And maybe when they come back in the fall, there'll be some fruits on the trees. That'd be really exciting. Well, this sounds like a really great grant program. Is there anything else about it you want to make sure to get in?
Yeah, so the grant awards are dependent on community donations as well. You can donate to support the grant projects through our online store website. And then in addition, we're also seeking people to serve on our grant selection committee. We want local experts and local community leaders that would be interested to go through the grant applications and help choose the awards for this coming funding cycle.
All right, well, I think that about covers it. If there's any additional resources you want to mention, but there's tons of resources on your website, washtenaw.cd.org. Are there any other resources that you especially want to make sure people know about?
Absolutely. As the Conservation District, it's our goal to provide resources to residents and organizations and businesses to do conservation practices on their property. And so we do also have some contractor lists of
Okay.
businesses offering conservation services. And then also I want to plug the Hunter Access Program is a DNR program where landowners can make some of their land available for hunters. And then this also allows local hunters to have hunting close by and ultimately will help control deer populations in the area as well.
All right, well, we really appreciate your time and hope that your sale goes well this year. I'm sorry that you weren't able to do it last year because of COVID, so I'm sure there'll be a lot of people that'll be thrilled that you're doing it this year. And I'll be excited to see who gets the grants. That's really exciting. Thank you so much for putting these programs on.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. I love to connect with people around taking care of our natural resources. And thank you for having me today. And I want to thank the Washtenaw County residents for passing the millage last fall that provided a lot of the funding for my position and other work that we do at the Conservation District.
Great. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you, Barbara.
So for this and all our previous Green Room shows, go to washtenaw.org/green room. Thanks for joining us here in the Green Room.